Well, hello and welcome to our backyard garden. This is episode number 9 on April 5th, 2024. It's a Friday morning, beautiful Friday morning, blue sky, a little chilly, low 50s, a little breezy, but supposed to go up to close to 70 degrees today. And we're going to take a quick look at our backyard. We just looked at our front yard. We're going to start off with this snapdragon that has just kind of seated itself here in a little crack in our driveway, and it's doing better than any of the others in the regular soil, and it's actually spread out pretty extensively. This was not here last year. We did not plant it there, but it's always worth showing. And we had a vinca that did kind of the same thing on this sidewalk here last year, and it's really fun to watch that through the year. And it did as well or better than some of the ones in the ground, just like now. So where we usually start is on this little hillside where we have all these irises. Last week this was covered with white irises. They are just about done now. And they are being replaced by the purple bearded iris, which will take over for the next couple of weeks. These are doing really well, look absolutely beautiful, especially here in the sunshine. And then as we come down, this group of irises over here had not looked like they were going to do all that well, and then they suddenly started putting up buds themselves. So we're going to get some flowers over here on this other side of the walk before too long. Early spring garden here, things are largely done, hyacinths and daffodils, and we're at a kind of a transition period. Not a lot going on right here, but there's a lot that's developing. About the only things that are really in bloom in this area right now are the few remaining tulips. We've got a beautiful yellow one, purple one over here, and then we have some pansies further down the hillside. But here we have a yellow knockout rose. Put this in last year. It has grown, it's easily doubled in size, and that's even with deer having eaten about half of it over the winter. So it has come back very nicely. It's got a lot of buds on it, so we're going to have some beautiful color before too long. Got our hydrangeas here, which will, we still have some seed pods from last year, but they're going to start to bloom probably midsummer. So right now they're just growing and developing, getting ready for their show later on. Got Asiatic lilies growing several inches a week. These were pretty small last week. They're getting taller and taller. They'll start to bloom probably in May or June and give us some beautiful color there. Digitalis doing really well. We're starting to get some flower buds. These usually bloom off and on for most of the summer into August or September, so hopefully this year will be no exception. We have several of those that have come back from last year, so we're really looking forward to those. Another hydrangea and a bunch of pansies down through here. These were decimated by rabbits and deer that had eaten them, sometimes pulling them just completely out of the ground, eating them right down to the ground level. But we started spraying them with deer spray, and it's made a big difference, and they have come back very nicely, so giving us some great color. And they should continue to probably until early June, when the heat starts to get a little too intense. They don't like the heat, and it's at that point that they typically die off. Got another digitalis back in here. We have a type of viburnum here, which will give us some little delicate white flowers, a couple of them here. In fact, we're starting to even see some buds, early ones that kind of look like broccoli at this point, but those will give us some little white flowers, which turn into little tiny blue berries, which the birds usually eat pretty quickly. I've got another miniature petite knockout rose here. It's got a big clematis growing up through it. And then we have a butterfly bush, one of two. It'll give us some nice dark purple flowers later on in the summer. Back in here, we have a yellow ground cover rose. Hard to see, it's just another piece of greenery right now, but that should start to give us some color before too long. I'm seeing some buds back here. Over here, a little more exciting, we have a lilac that's in bloom. And it's not excessively, let me say, fragrant, but it does have a faint lilac smell to it, which is very pleasant. We've got 3 clematis growing up here along the fence. Should start to give us some flowers before too long. Another big knockout rose with a clematis growing up inside of it. Got some big flower buds getting ready to open up. Another petite knockout rose here, which will give us some red flowers before too long. Iris is back in there. Lots of daylilies in this area. Another big digitalis here. It's starting to put out some seed, or not seed, but flower buds. Another one of those over here, getting ready. Probably in another month we'll start to get some digitalis flowers. We have one big viburnum back here, one of the biggest ones we have in the yard. We have a lot more in the front. We showed those off in the front yard video earlier, but they're doing extremely well. As we get further down, this is another shady area. We have azaleas that are starting to bloom. They're not fully in bloom yet. It'll be another couple of weeks, I think, but we're rapidly getting there. And then hyacinths that have finished up. We have some daylilies back in here. Lamb's ear, little ground cover shade plant that we've had for a number of years now. It doesn't flower, but it's really unique and kind of a nice little addition in the shady part of the yard. Astilbe here, doing really well. Some of these we've had in for a few years, and some of them we put in last year. They're all doing really, really well, and they'll start to give us some flowers before too long. Well, it probably will be a little bit longer. They're more of a summer flower, so I would say maybe June or July we'll start to get flowers on those. Another big azalea here, and back here we've got hostas, some more astilbe as we get down closer to the pond. And in the back, we actually have a wisteria that I had given up on. I thought this thing was dead, but just in the past week it started to put out some leaves, so that's kind of fun. We have another wisteria over here which is doing a little bit better. I know wisteria is kind of a controversial plant in that it's very aggressive, very invasive. We've tried to keep ours close to fences in areas that it's not going to take over the garden. We try to trim it back so it doesn't get out of control, but it does give us those beautiful flowers. We're getting the buds here now, but it'll be probably another month or so before we actually get the flowers opening up. And coming back over this way, we've got more azaleas, daylilies, lots of things that are going to give us a ton of color before too much longer. Climbing roses and clematis up against the fence. Lots of daylilies back in here. We had a couple of knockout roses in this area. The deer ate them down to the ground. Not quite sure what's going to happen with those, although we have one here that does look like it's making a bit of a recovery. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that in terms of flowers. Looks like we're actually getting a few buds there, so should be interesting to watch. And again, we've got more daylilies. We've got some daisies over in here. Asiatic lilies, beautiful, big, full plants. Those will give us some nice blooms in another month or so. And then we have a few more roses back in there. We've got some jasmine that we had to cut back, another very invasive vine. But along our fence between the climbing roses, the clematis, and the jasmine, it's just a sea of color from May through about July before it starts to back down a little bit. Got a couple Asiatic lilies back in here, more clematis up heading up towards the flagpole and the trellis. We're seeing a lot more buds up on the trellis this year. In fact, if you look really closely, I don't know how well this will come in, but you can really start to see a lot of flower buds. These are going to be little tiny pink climbing roses. This thing was prolific last year. It put out thousands and thousands of buds, and it was just gorgeous throughout really the entire year. We started seeing flowers in April, and it continued to give us flowers well up into past the first freeze into November. We're seeing some here as well, so it won't be long before we start seeing a lot of pink roses. Red roses will take a little bit longer, but we've got a lot going on here on this trellis. Kind of matching this side, which is a mix of roses and clematis. Probably got as many clematis as we do roses. First of those clematis are coming out now, these pink ones. And then over here, more of the climbing roses, sort of a reddish orange plant or flower that comes out later on. And then over this way, we've got dianthus. Not a lot of dianthus down here, but enough to give us some color in this area. We also have some calla lilies, which hopefully will come back. We put quite a few in of different colors through this area. We'll see if they come back. We also have some veronica, which gives us big spikes of purple flowers. Here, some more daisies. We'll have some cleome growing up in this area later in the year. And then over in here, this is probably going to be the biggest concentration of red roses and clematis in another month or so. We've got one of our, I always want to call these gardenia. They're not gardenia, they're blanked on the name, but they're just about finished anyway. You know, one flower left here that's I think going to be the last one for the season. Kind of a late winter flower more than anything. Over here, a nice big variegated butterfly bush. That'll give us some dark purple flowers before too long. And then over here, we have what we've typically referred to as our dead zone area that has not done real well. Having said that, I looked at this wisteria last year and I said, I think it was not going to come back. And here we are. We've got some returning vines, not a lot. A lot of this appears to be pretty well finished up, but there's still a little bit of life left. We had climbing roses in this, or not climbing, but knockout roses in this area. The deer ate them right down to the roots. But we do have clematis that are coming back and doing really well. These need to be trained up onto the fence. I think they'll do a little bit better. And then we've got gladiolas coming up in here. These glads have been in for a few years. They're not coming up in large numbers, just sort of sporadically. They give us great flowers when they're new, but after about 2 or 3 years, they start to I don't know, just sort of wear out in general. But lots of clematis up against the fence. Some really doing amazingly well back in here. We've got some buds that are ready to pop pretty quickly. We've got our weeping cherry tree here, which I'll try to show it from this direction. It's just about done. It only blooms for a couple of weeks, unfortunately, but still have some of the little flowers that are hanging on. And then the wisteria here, this is our oldest one. Pretty aggressive. This is the one we have to really chop back periodically because it gets out of control, and you can kind of see the main trunk of that. It's pretty well established down in there, and they're almost impossible to kill, but they do pay off with several weeks of beautiful purple flowers in the springtime. Now over here we have canna. This is another invasive, fairly aggressive plant. You can see the greenery coming up amongst the the dead foliage from last year. We just have not cleaned that out yet, but that should give us at least some degree of red flowers later on. Did do our spring cleanup down here last week and cleaned out some of the brush and things left over from last year. We have a lot of daylilies in here and black-eyed Susans as well. And then kind of a combination of the same with irises as well over on this side. These are more midsummer flowers, so not a lot to see right now, but we'll continue to watch these as they develop and get ready to start flowering later on in the spring. And then real quickly, we'll take a gander at our hostas, which are growing very quickly. We cleaned these up last weekend and they look really good. In fact, I would say most of these, we have 9 tufts of hostas. I would say they've doubled in size just since last week, so those look pretty solid. And then coming back over here, we have Veronica doing very well. Lots of roses getting ready to bloom. Irises in the back that are also getting ready to bloom. We've got a big weed here that we have to spray to get rid of. We haven't done that yet, but we will. We've had a problem similar to some of the other areas in the yard where we have a weed growing up amongst other flowers that we want to save. We don't want to spray everything and kill all the good stuff off, and so it's kind of an ongoing problem. We got daylilies here. We've got Asiatic lilies coming up, doing very well. Got some what appear to be calla lilies here, the first ones. That usually blooms a little bit later in the spring. Got mixtures of roses and clematis over here. Got a lilac here, which is fully in, not in bloom, but the leaves are out. Really did not give us any flowers yet. Maybe it still will. I'm not seeing any buds on it. It did last year. Not sure why it wouldn't. It's done very well over the years. It's got a big clematis growing up through and beside it. You can see some of those are flowers are opening up now, and those will continue to give us a lot of color. Even if the lilac doesn't do anything, at least the clematis will. Now this lilac, which we just bought last year, this one's doing great. It was getting ready to open up in a big way last week, but now it has, and it's mildly fragrant, not a lot of smell to it, but it's really pretty. Reminds us of being up in the north. We don't see a lot of lilacs down here. They're generally discouraged because they don't do so well in the heat, but if you get them in an area that's fairly shady, and here under the deck, they only get sun in the morning, really up until about 11 or 12 o'clock, and then after that they're in the shade. So I think they'll do okay long term. At least I hope they do. Here we have kind of an interesting thing. We've got a daylily with a digitalis that's self-seeded right amongst the leaves there. So we'll have kind of double attack of flowers in that area. More daylilies through here. Another clematis that's opening up. Big rose here. Big buds getting ready to pop. More daylilies, roses, Asiatic lilies all through here, and then big pink knockout rose, which or actually more of a climbing rose, that has been just kind of overwhelming. Put out thousands of flowers. It looks like it's getting ready to do so again. Buds everywhere. It's growing up the side of the staircase. We put a trellis in there to try to control it a little bit at least, because it has a way of taking over a garden very quickly. More Asiatic lilies here, and then we have one little coreopsis with the yellow flowers. We tend to think of this as more of a summer plant, but it is blooming already, looking really good. And our blueberry over here, kind of hanging on. I don't know what it's going to do. It's been really kind of a disappointment. It looks like it might be dying off already. We've had it in for, I think this is its 3rd year. Overall been a disappointment, but we'll see what it does. Another hosta back in here, and then this whole area will probably in another 2 or 3 months we'll start to get tomatoes that self-seed. We had tomatoes all through this area. Last year we probably had a few hundred tomato fruit, that more than we could eat, quite honestly. And so we're waiting on those. Otherwise, we continue to just slowly work on spring cleanup and weeding and so forth, and we'll keep at it. So a lot of potential for a lot of flowers. The front yard tends to be a little more of a spring blossoming area, but the backyard is a little more of a summer blossoming area. So we're going to see a lot of flowers here before too long. So hope it's sunny wherever you are, and until next time, happy gardening.